So today I'll be reading a new quiz in ReadTheory. Ghostwritten. First introduced in 1927, the Hardy Boys Mystery Stories are a series of books about the adventures of brothers Frank and Joe Hardy, teenage detectives who solve one baffling mystery after another. The Hardy Boys was so popular among young boys that in 1930, a similar series was created for girls featuring a 16-year-old detective named Nancy Drew. The cover of each volume of the Hardy Boys states that the author of the series is Franklin W. Dyson. The Nancy Drew mystery stories are supposedly written by Caroline Keene. Over the years, though, many fans of both stories have been surprised to find out that Franklin W. Dyson and Caroline Keene are not real people. If Franklin W. Dyson and Caroline Keene never existed, then who wrote the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew mysteries? The Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew books were written through a process called ghostwriting. A ghostwriter writes a book according to a specific formula. While ghostwriters are paid for writing the books, their authorship is not acknowledged, and the names don't appear on the published books. Ghostwriters can write books for children or adults, the content of which is unspecific. Sometimes they work on book series with a lot of individual titles, such as the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew series. We have a new word. It is the authorship. Authorship means the state or fact of being an author. The initial idea for both the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew series was developed by a man named Edward Stratemeyer, who owned a publishing company that specialized in children's books. Stratemeyer noticed that the increasing popularity of mysteries among adults and surmised that children would enjoy reading mysteries about younger detectives with whom they could identify. Stratemeyer first developed each book with an outline describing the plot and setting. Once he completed the outline, Stratemeyer then hired a ghostwriter to convert it into a book of slightly over 200 pages. After the ghostwriter had written a draft of a book, he or she would send it back to Stratemeyer, who would make a list of corrections and mail it back to the ghostwriter. The ghostwriter would revise the book according to Stratemeyer's instructions and then return it to him. Once Stratemeyer approved the book, it was ready for publication. Because each series ran for so many years, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys both had a number of different ghostwriters producing books. However, the first ghostwriter for each series proved to be the most influential. The initial ghostwriter for the Hardy Boys was a Canadian journalist named Lizzie McFarlane. A few years later, Mentored a young writer from Iowa, began writing the Nancy Drew books. Although they was using prepared outlines as guides, both McFarlane and Ward developed the characters themselves. The personalities of Frank and Joe Hardy and Nancy Drew arose directly from McFarlane's and Ward's imaginations. For example, Mayfred Ward had been a star college athlete and gave Nancy similar athletic abilities. The ghostwriters was responsible for numerous plot and setting details. Less so, McFarlane used elements of his small Canadian town to create Bayport, the Hardy Boys' fictional hometown. Although the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew books were very popular with children, not everyone approved of them. Critics thought the plots were unrealistic and even far-fetched, since most teenagers did not experience the adventures Frank and Joe Hardy or Nancy Drew did. The way the books were written also attracted criticism. Many teachers and librarians objected to the ghostwriting process, claiming it was designed to produce books quickly rather than create quality literature. Some libraries, including the New York Public Library, even refused to include the books in the children's collections. Ironically, the decision actually helped sales of the book because students simply purchased them when they were available in local libraries. Regardless of the debates about their literary merit, each series of books had exerted an undeniable influence on American and even global culture. Most Americans have never heard of Edward Stratemeyer, Lizzo McFarlane, or Meet Red Word, but people throughout the world are familiar with Nancy Drew and Frank and Drew Hardy. Okay, so now it's covered all my questions and can't see anything, so I probably need to change the position of this camera. Wait me a minute.